I am 87 years old, and for the last 22 years I have woken at the same hour every single night. 10 minutes past 2, not 2:30, not 3. 10 minutes past 2, the way a clock keeps an appointment. For most of those years I treated it as a fault in me, something broken, something to be medicated, argued with, ignored, or blamed on the coffee. Then last winter I sat down with a pencil and wrote out everything I had gotten wrong about that hour. There were nine confessions, and when I finished the list I did not feel ashamed and I did not feel proud. I felt honest, maybe for the first time in years. Come and sit with me a while. Pull the chair close the way you would to a low fire, because I want to say this next part quietly. I am not telling you that you sleep badly. I am not telling you that your rest is ruined or that you are sick, or that your years have finally caught up to you the way people keep hinting at Sunday dinner. I am telling you something the old ones knew and we forgot, that waking is not a fault. It is information. Your body is speaking a language older than clocks, and nobody ever taught you a single word of it. My grandmother had a saying for the ones who came to her tired. She would put her hand flat on the table and say, "The night does not wake you to punish you. It wakes you to hand you something." She kept a small fire going in the stove all night, banked low, and she said a fire that never stirs is a fire that is dying. The stirring is how you know it is still burning. Then she would look at whoever had come to her and add the part that took me 60 years to hear. A body that wakes in the dark is a body still doing its work, and the ones who never wake are not always the ones we are burying last. She never once called it a sleep problem. She called it the hour the house gets quiet enough for the body to say what it has been carrying all day. So here is the first confession. For 11 years I fought the clock with my eyes shut. 10 past 2 would come, and I would lie there stiff as a plank, refusing to open my eyes, telling myself that if I did not admit I was awake, sleep would not notice and would come back. I would count. I would recite the names of every horse we ever owned. I would lie in the dark performing sleep for an audience of nobody, and the harder I performed, the wider awake I got, until my heart was going like I had run up the porch steps. My grandfather used to say a man who wrestles the river gets wet and still ends up downstream. I was wrestling the river every night at 2. Nothing came of the fighting but sweat and a sore jaw. The fix was almost insulting in how small it was. I opened my eyes. I said out loud, to the ceiling, "I am awake now," and the fight went out of the room. Before I go further, let me set one small thing down beside you. I gathered what these long nights taught me into a little book called The Native Way, and the link for it sits down in the description below this video. It is the quiet things, written plain, the way the old ones handled the dark hours, the aching mornings, the years when the house empties out. There is no pressure at all from me. I am here with you either way, whether you ever open a single page of it. You do not need it to hear what I am about to say. Everything I know is going in this video anyway, the whole 9 of them, and I would rather you sit here with me than go anywhere else. So, set that aside. It will keep. Now let me give you the second confession, and I will tell you plainly, this one cost me more of my life than the first one did. For years I did arithmetic in the dark. I would wake at 10 past 2 and start counting backward before my feet ever touched the floor. 4 hours down, 4 to go, and if I fall asleep this minute I can still get 3.5. I turned my own bed into a ledger, and I sat there every night doing sums on what I had lost. My daughter gave me one of those wristbands one Christmas, the kind that scores your sleep like a school teacher, and it made it worse. Now, I had a number in the morning to be disappointed by. I would feel fine getting out of bed, look at that little screen, and decide I felt terrible. My grandmother would have laughed at me. She used to say you cannot fatten a calf by weighing it twice a day. Counting the hours never gave me 1 hour back. The night I quit counting was the first night in years that the hour did not frighten me. The third confession is that I spent 20 years grieving a thing I had already been given. I believed the deep, heavy, dreamless sleep, the kind you drop into like a stone into a well, had left me for good because I was old and worn down. What nobody told me, and what I only learned late, is that the body takes that heavy sleep first. It spends it in the early stretch after you lie down, the way a hungry man eats the meat off the plate before he ever gets to the beans. By 2 in the morning, the body has already done its heaviest work. Bones tended, the day's damage patched. What is left after that is the thin, light kind of rest, and the thin kind is easy to slip out of. So I was not losing the good sleep at 2. I had already had it. I was waking at the seam, the place one kind of night ends and another begins. The fourth confession is that I blamed everything in that room except the one thing that was actually talking. I blamed the coffee, though I had not had a cup past noon in a decade. I blamed the dog. I blamed the neighbor's truck, the moon through the curtain, the mattress, my wife's breathing, and for one entire winter I blamed the furnace. Here is what I did not know. After 65, the body changes the hours it does its plainest work. It handles its water differently in the night than it did at 40. So it lifts you up to be emptied. It runs low on fuel and wakes you to say so. And in the last dark hours, it begins turning the engine over for the day, quietly, whether you asked it to or not. My grandfather used to say, if you shout at the smoke, the fire goes right on burning. I shouted at smoke for 20 years. The fifth confession is the one my children still bring up. For 4 years I took something every night to stop the waking, and I would not hear a word against it. It worked, after a fashion. I did not remember waking, but I came up out of those mornings like a man coming up out of a lake, heavy, thick-tongued, reaching for the wall on the way down the hall. I fell twice. The second time I sat on the floor of my own bathroom a good while and finally understood. It had not handed me my night back. It had only taken away my memory of the night, and it charged me the whole next day for the favor. I went to my doctor and I said, I want off this slowly, with your help. It took months, but I stopped mistaking a quiet night for a good one. The sixth confession is small, and it embarrasses me. I kept my bedroom hot as an August afternoon, and then wondered why the night threw me out of it. I did not know that a body has to cool itself down to go under, and warms itself back up before the light comes. That warming is part of the waking. I had a thermostat fighting my own blood every night of my life, and I called that fight insomnia. My grandmother slept in a cold room under 3 heavy blankets until the day she died, and I always thought that was just being poor. It was not. She would say, keep the room like the woods and the bed like the den, and any creature alive will know what to do. So I turned the heat down and I put the weight back on the bed. It did not stop the waking. But I stopped waking up damp and furious, and that alone was worth the trouble. The seventh confession is the heaviest of them. I let that hour become a courtroom, and I let it try me alone, with nobody there to speak on my behalf. Everything came to that hour. The money I lost in '79, the way I spoke to my son the last spring he lived under my roof. Every friend I did not call while there was still somebody to answer. The mind at 2 in the morning is a poor judge. It has no daylight to check its facts against, and it has never once returned a kind verdict on me. Do you know that court? Does it call your name too, always at the same hour? The old ones would not let a person sit alone with their own mind at night. They put a hand on you. They said, nothing decided in the dark is decided. So now I keep a pencil and a scrap of paper on the nightstand, and when the court opens, I write the charge down and I say out loud, morning will hear this one. 9 times in 10, morning throws the case out before breakfast. The 8th confession is that I stayed in that bed like it was a sentence I had earned. An hour. Sometimes 2, lying there going stale, teaching my own body that a bed is where a man lies awake and suffers. A bed learns. That is the plain truth of it. Lie awake in it long enough, night after night, year after year, and the mattress itself starts to mean worry to you, the way a dentist's hallway means pain before anyone touches you. So I quit. Now when I have been awake a while, and I can feel that it is not turning, I get up. I go sit in the kitchen chair by the window with one low lamp, no bright screen, no news, no clock anywhere I can see it. Some nights that is 15 minutes. Some nights it is 40. When my eyes get heavy, I go back. And the bed has become the place where I sleep again, instead of the place where I lose. And the ninth confession, the one I am least proud of, is that for over 20 years I treated a visitor like an intruder. The old ones in my family did not call this hour a problem. They called it the listening hour, the hour the house finally goes quiet enough to hear what the day had been drowning out. My grandmother woke in the night her whole life, and I never once heard her complain of it. She used it. She sat up, and she remembered her dead by name, and she prayed for the living. And some nights she simply watched the dark and let whatever was grieving in her come up and be grieved. That is when I finally understood why the waking gets stronger in the hard seasons. The month my wife was dying, I woke at 2:10 every single night, wide as an open window. My body was not failing. My body was handing me the grief in the only hour I was ever quiet enough to take it, and I kept shoving it back and calling it a sleep disorder. What has your body been trying to hand you, all those nights you spent fighting it? Now, writing down 9 of my own mistakes did not make me feel good. I want to be honest with you about that. But naming these was not the same as hating myself for them, and I need you to hear the difference, because a lot of us at our age have lost the ability to tell those two apart. There is a way of looking at yourself that goes, I am a bad sleeper. That is who I am now. That is what I have become. And the moment you say it that way, there is nothing left to be done, because you cannot mend what you have decided you are. It sits down on you like a wet coat, and it does not come off. But not one of those 9 was who I am. Every last one of them was something I was doing, shutting my eyes and pretending, counting hours, blaming the furnace, keeping the room hot, sitting in a courtroom with no lawyer, lying in a bed I was slowly teaching to mean dread. Those are all actions. A man of 87 can still stop an action. He cannot stop being 87, and he has no need to. That is the whole of the difference, and it took me most of a lifetime to find it. If the waking is a fault, then I am the fault, and there is nowhere to walk from there. If the waking is information, if it is my own body speaking in the only quiet it ever gets, then I am not broken. I am being spoken to, and the only question left in the room is whether I am going to listen or keep arguing. I argued for 20 years. I have been listening for 2. I would trade the 20 for 2 more of the listening, if anybody would take that trade. So let me gather this up for you now, the way my grandmother gathered the ends of her shawl before she stood to go. 9. I fought the clock with my eyes shut. I did arithmetic in the dark and called it thinking. I grieved a deep sleep I had already been handed. I blamed the coffee and the dog and the furnace instead of asking my own body one honest question. I swallowed something to erase the hour and paid for it all the next day. I kept the room too warm for my own blood. I let my mind hold court at 2 in the morning with nobody there to defend me. I lay in a bed I was quietly teaching to mean worry. And worst of all, I treated the listening hour like a burglar for over 20 years. Now turn that around and hold it up against your own nights. Do you count the hours? Do you lie there with your eyes squeezed shut, performing sleep for nobody? Whose voice is it that shows up at your bedside at the same hour, and what is it always about? Is your room too warm? Is your bed still a place you sleep? Or has it quietly turned into a place you lie awake? You do not have to answer me. Answer yourself tonight, at whatever hour your house goes quiet. I know what some of you are thinking right now because I thought it myself at 70, and again at 80, and again last spring. Is it too late for me? I have been doing this wrong for 30 years. What good is knowing now? Listen to me. I am 87 years old. I cannot promise you one thing about how you will sleep tonight, and nobody honest will. But this much has not been taken from me, and it has not been taken from you either. I can still notice one thing I do, and I can still make one ordinary choice about it. That is all I have ever had, and it is not nothing. So tell me now, of those 9, which number landed closest to home? Which one made you sit up a little because it was yours? Put it down in the comments for me, just the number if that is all you care to say. I read them, everyone, usually early, usually at an hour you would not believe, and then come back and sit with me again tomorrow. This chair by the fire is yours for as long as you want it. Rest easy tonight, my friend, and be gentle with yourself in the dark.